Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next session. I'm Marc, co-founder of Startup Genome, and I'm joined by António Dias-Martins, Executive Director of Startup Portugal, and Amélie Desrochers, Innovation Director at Novarium. It's a very exciting space, the blue economy, and I'm very, very happy to dive into it with you. In fact, just yesterday, our team launched a big global study, a big global report looking at startup activity, looking at funding, looking at exits in this space, in order to understand where in the world is what actually happening in blue economy. And it was fantastic to see, together with our partners, Crunchbase, Deerroom, Canada Ocean Supercluster, and Novarium, that actually for the first time for a Startup Genome ranking, Silicon Valley didn't come out at the top. But actually Singapore has seen impressive performance in the last couple of years in creating startups, attracting funding. So this was very exciting for all of the team to see. What's also really cool is that Europe is actually the global leader, is home to 39% of all of the world's blue economy startups, and 3 out of the top 5 ranks in our global ranking are also in Europe. In general, when you look at the space and the funding that it creates, during the last 2 years, Series A deals have grown by 80%, also super impressive. And in case you wondered where that money is going to, the most important areas are agriculture, marine transportation, and marine energy. But there is so much more to explore, and this is why the 3 of us are here to talk about it today. António, I want to start with you. We're here in Portugal. I heard the last couple of days a lot of exciting updates on the blue economy, but I think it would be really useful to the audience if you could give them a very quick update on what is happening here.
Okay, thank you, Marc. It's a pleasure being here with you. Well, Portugal is a reference in the blue economy because in history, we are a sea country. We are the country of the seas in Europe. We have more than 900 kilometers of coast, more than 900 kilometers of coast. We have an exclusive economic area, currently 1.7 million square meters, growing to 4.1 million square meters. One of the second largest in Europe, one of the largest in the world. Can you imagine? Larger than Brazil. And also, we are dedicated to the blue economy with several and different initiatives. We hosted the UN Global Ocean Conference this year in June in Lisbon, where we gathered more than 12,000 participants from all over the world, startups, youngsters, innovative tech companies, universities, 15 high representatives and heads of states all over the world, organized by the UN, and it was a great moment to discuss the future of blue economy, and it was made in Lisbon, and we've shown a lot of good potential projects in this area, and we are one of the top European countries doing concrete action in order to put the blue economy in the priorities of global economic growth.
Yeah.
So I think there are a lot of challenges. Maybe you will ask me further about this, but just the first remark is that we are the country of the seas. We are in the head of blue economy in several and different areas, and we are doing concrete action, public policies and initiatives to put blue economy in the top of our priorities.
Thank you, António. We'll talk a bit more about the challenges and also the role of government in a bit. Amélie, you're working with a really interesting organization and also as part of the blue economy in Canada, based out of Quebec. I'd love to have you give a quick introduction to what you're doing and what you're seeing in Canada.
Well, the blue economy seems very obscure maybe for a lot of us, and a year ago I didn't know what it was, but it's actually going to be a $3 trillion market by 2030, and as the population explodes, we need to feed 9 billion people with proteins, and it's just a very exciting space to be in at the moment, and I hope we can contaminate you with this positivity today. Basically, fishing, the fishery markets, and the port and shipping transport is an untapped market of possibilities. There's a lot of money in those two sectors. Of course, we're talking about saving the oceans and tackling the climate crisis, but it goes much deeper than that in terms of smart navigation, AI, underwater drones, aquaculture. These sectors are booming. It's very niche, but it's very targeted, and it's a very exciting space to be in at the moment.
And I mean, just looking at the sector and some of the examples that you just mentioned, it's really important to bring together science and the innovators and government. How do you see that with your work with Novarium? How do you bring each of these very different stakeholders together?
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of incubators and accelerators that are more generalist, and what we see in the blue economy, it's such a niche market that we're basically there as an interface to plug the right talents with the right research centers, and especially understanding the industry needs. The ports and the shipping companies, for example, they've been operating under the radar for such a long time, and we have yet to understand what they truly need and what kind of amazing data sets they have in store. And as we work with them to accelerate the pace and the level of openness they have towards open innovation, and also make them understand how startups can actually help to bridge the gap. So using their facilities, having access to water shores, being able to put the devices right in the water. It's not as easy as programming a mobile app. It needs, and aquaculture needs a lot of facilities, especially if you're doing it on land. So that's where we intervene, and we work with the Canadian government, with other governments as well, to give this space and opportunities to the startups we're working with.
Yep. António, in our global research, you've seen that aquaculture, marine transportation, marine energy are some of the areas that are really seeing rapid growth. I wonder, here in Portugal, are there any specific areas within the blue economy that are growing very fast? Or?
Those are certainly important areas, but I would point out three additional areas that have high potential to grow in the next years, and where Portugal, with Portuguese startups, are already making the change. I would start by pointing the production of recycled materials through sea sustainable material. So recycling. A second area I would point out is funding for projects in the blue economy, bringing privates to invest in blue economy. I think this is one of the great challenges that we have, and we are seeing platforms that gather funding initiatives from privates to invest in blue economy projects. So it's an area that connects fintech with blue economy, and I think it has great future. And I would point out a third area, that is collecting, treating, and deploying and showing data from the deep sea. So to know better what is in our oceans, and based in that area and in that data, to bring additional knowledge and also make it available in order for entrepreneurs also to come in and find gaps and propose also their solutions and their projects regarding the data and the gaps that we diagnose from those data.
Yep.
So those three areas, I think, are super important, and we see currently specific Portuguese startups doing a great job in that area.
Amazing. Amélie, I'd also love to hear from you. I mean, this is the Startup University stage. I hope there are some innovators and entrepreneurs here in the audience as well. I'd love to hear from you. What are some of the companies that you're seeing in Canada that are seeing fast trajectory in the space?
Well, the energy sector is booming, that's for sure, and the biggest deals are definitely in that space. We have Planetary Tech. They just got the prize from Elon Musk Foundation, I'm not gonna go into the technical details, but they're basically use the acidification of the ocean and transform the excess carbon into hydrogen, which is after used in the transport shipping industry. Very exciting company. There's also Mara Renewables. They're in the energy space as well. They just secured like a 220 million deal. So definitely energy is booming. And a company I'm working with, Montreal-based Techstar graduate, it's called Whale Seeker. They use satellite images and AI data points to map out and predict where the whales are going to be, and they work with the shipping companies to avoid collisions and optimize routes. So it's a really fun project we love working with right now.
Very impressive. Thank you. I mean, this is a very immature space still, right? It's growing a lot, but it's still very early, and I wonder what are some of the key challenges that you're seeing, right? I mean, we've been talking a bit about access to funding, but it's not the traditional VC model like software, for example, right? So do you see a problem in attracting private capital into the space right now, and how could we change that?
Yeah, I think one of the key challenges is really the source of funding. We won't make this area a sustainable area of investment if we don't attract private capital to invest in it. Obviously, that currently public policies and public money is super important to kick this off and to make this awareness that we need to have in order to step to the next level. But we won't make this sustainable as a business if we don't bring the privates to invest in this area. So everything that we can do in order to innovate, to bring business models that can be sustainable, that can attract funding, to make good projects and to show them off to investors and to bring the return on investment that they want to the table and not being only dependent on public fund. I think that is the most important thing to resolve and to answer to that gap and to that challenge. I would say that a second big challenge is to bring the blue economy to universities and to young entrepreneurs and future young entrepreneurs. I've seen a great initiative this year at the UN Ocean Conference, an Innovathon, which is a contest for startup ideas generated directly by the students at Nova SBE, one of the top Portuguese universities, and that they were specifically dedicated to brainstorm and to put business models on the table, to discuss and to show new ideas on this area. And I think we should do this quite wide and spread in several countries and do like a road show of the blue economy through the major universities in the world in order to show the importance of this area, because this can combine two very important aspects. The one is the future of our species. We are dealing here with one priority that deals with our humankind future. And this is one of the top concerns of the youngsters nowadays. The new generation concerns about this. And the second is that we can do this and at the same time make a profit out of this, make a return on the investment. And for that, we need creativity, we need young people to be interested in this area, to invest their times and their resources, their skills, thinking about new solutions for this area. And I think we need to support them. We need to gather with private big investors, with pension funds, with institutional investors, with companies that have private budgets, institutional important private budgets to put in this type of projects. and that are a big help after the states and the public policies are a big help to make this grow and make this real a future sustainable business model.
One other area I'd like to dig into as far as challenges are concerned are customers. Startups obviously need customers in order to grow, in order to succeed, to attract funding. Amélie, how do you see that connection and the willingness on the corporate side to engage with innovators in the blue economy?
Well, it's getting there. It's getting there. It's not easy working with big global organizations that didn't have to innovate, but they do need the need, and there's like the social pressure also of decarbonizing the industry and the regulations from different governments to help to push them in that direction. So I think in the last few months we definitely saw a shift, not just in Canada but globally, especially in the fishing and shipping sector.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And is there anything that the government specifically is doing that you think is very helpful, or anything that you would wish the government would be doing in order to really help move the needle there? Or?
Well, absolutely. In Canada, we're really blessed to have super clusters. We have one that's fully dedicated to the ocean. It comes with 250 million US dollars in funds annually. And there's one dedicated to AI that's called Scale AI. So basically, having the first investor as being a government actor is helpful. If you look at the top 20 list, obviously some government help was involved. I think Portugal is also committed to that, and they're moving into that direction. But we need to move further than that. Where the cleantech were 10 years ago, I'd say. So it's helpful to have some public help, but I think working with governments and corporate sector to attract VC funding in that specific vector is also going to be really helpful. And having the corporate, it's nice they're opening up, they're giving us access to their facilities, but at this point we still have to build a business case to showcase that it's worth investing massively with the startups, and we'd love them to be part of the conversation in terms of taking equity and being like real financial partners for the startups. That's the
Perfect.
next step.
Thank you. Thanks. I think it's very important to dig into the challenges, right? We want to have a balanced conversation, but I think after all, we can summarize this is a very promising and important sector that we should all look into as entrepreneurs, as innovators, as investors, as government. I want to make sure that we leave on a positive note. I'd like to share, both of you, perhaps like one anecdote that people can take home. From my side, just recently I spent a bit of time with Oxford master's students, water science and water management program, and all of them told me that they are extremely excited to see how all of this, what they're learning, can be applied to the real world and really help solve some of the challenges they're seeing all the time. So this really gave me a lot of hope and confidence in our future generations. I wonder if you have any positive anecdote that you could share before we wrap up. António, anything?
Well, what more inspiring do I have to say to talk about a project that we are launching with the UN, that it's called a Global UN Oceans Accelerator. We are going to build with the United Nations, with Startup Portugal, a global accelerator that can give a quality stamp to new projects in this area, blue economy, projects bring by young entrepreneurs, by university entrepreneurs, and that can show them and make them meet reference investors worldwide, CEOs that can be an inspiration, partners, clients, and bring them to the spotlight and try to help them to thrive and to grow. So I think this is the positive note that I leave you. I think we are on the way to make something great, and it's together with you, with people from university, young entrepreneurs, creativity, that we are going to do that. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you. Amélie.
Well, one of my favorite projects right now, it's called Dev Ocean, and it's basically, António was talking about a new generation of talents who want to make a difference. They're all engineers. They had no knowledge of the ocean whatsoever, and they went really far up north in Canada to work with fishermen. They were waiting on the shore with beers to learn about the industry and see what the real pain point were. And 2 years later, they have a solution for crab and lobster, specifically with IoT devices. And you have the fishermen who are discovering the startup community, and it's a win-win on both sides. I hope we see more collisions happening like that.
Amazing. Thank you both. Thank you very much. We're out of time. Thank you everyone for joining. If you'd like to learn more about the space, please go to startupgenome.com to download our Blue Economy report and check Novarium and Startup Portugal's work. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.